Let's go ahead and open. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Gracious and liberating Christ, we praise you and we thank you for the gift of this Sunday, the last Sunday after the Feast of the Pentecost. We thank you, God, for the gift of the noise and the wonderful sounds of children as they come in for godly play and for youth group. We ask, God, that you continue to pour forth your abundant blessings on Jeff as he continues to minister, even and especially in retirement. And we pray, God, that you give him the words to share with us here today. All this we ask in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to introduce Jeff Allen and have the pleasure of introducing him. He has been the executive director of the West Virginia Council of Churches for a number of years and has recently retired. I'm sure he'll give us more information of what the council includes, but in my words, very simply put, it's all kinds of different faiths pulled together for a common good and probably at times needing assistance around certain things at the legislature, I suspect. But Jeff, I turn this over to you. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you to Bob for making the contact. And Bob has his own storied history with West Virginia Council of Churches and probably could tell it a lot better than I could. But well, my name is Jeff Allen. I'm a United Methodist pastor, or as my friend Bob Drake, boy, it's going to be a long. As my friend Bob Drake used to say, does anyone remember Bob Drake from the Highlands Education Project down in McDowell County? Bob, it's the Episcopalian ministry down in McDowell County. And Bob used to say, we got talking about United Methodists and said, well, Jeff, you're just a redneck Episcopalian. Okay. And of course, he liked, to remind me that, John Wesley never left the Anglican Church. So, hopefully one day, we're getting there. I think, we had this little split in the United Methodist Church. It sort of delayed some of the communion agreements with the Episcopal Church, but hopefully, now that your split is passed, if our split is passed, we can take a one more step to getting reunified. My journey with West Virginia Council of Churches began many years ago, decades now, when I was a pastor down in Keystone and Northfork, down in McDowell County. I was just starting out my ministry. And, it wasn't uncommon, for the United Methodist Conference in West Virginia to just sort of appoint you to some committee of which, we are Methodist, so there's like a ton of committees. Somehow I got on the Christian Unity and Interfaith Religious Concerns Committee. It was there, I think, that I really began to find my way to connecting and serving on the West Virginia Council of Churches. I was on the board for a long time. I worked on the Roman Catholic United Methodist document on marriage. I was single at that time, but honestly, pretty much everyone else on that committee was single too, but somehow we got it done. And I circulated on and off with the council over the years. Served on the Government Concerns Program Unit with Carl Rutan, who was a force of nature for the council for many years. And some of you may know Carol Warren. Finished my term, got married to Laura Harbert, who you may remember from Music in the Afternoon. She got a job at EKU, in Eastern Kentucky University over in Richmond, Kentucky. We moved back. She took a position as the conference director of communications And at that point, it was late in the appointment season. So I wound up as the director of the Healthy Kids and Families that was under the West Virginia Council of Churches at that time. And that, was the first time I had been an employee of the council. And a few years later, when Dennis Sparks retired, the council, being somewhat desperate, decided to hire me as the executive director. And that's how I got there. So I served for 12 years and retired December-ish, sort of January-ish. And that's how I'm here now. So the West Virginia Council of Churches was formed in 1880. It celebrates 145 years this year. It had its roots in the Sunday school movement in England. Robert Raikes was an Anglican layperson. And the Sunday school movement isn't sort of what it is today. Back then, it was basically teaching reading and arithmetic to poor kids. And, so it was a very social movement, really geared towards, helping people in poverty. In 1880 or thereabouts, public education began to emerge in the country. And I think what happened is that, okay, so there's public school now, so we don't have to teach, math or reading or anything like that. So what are we going to do with this? Well, we'll start teaching Sunday school. And I think that's how the council sort of got to where it was today. There's been a lot of changes in church and society, during that time. I mean, you think how, we have the social gospel. We've seen the nature of ministry change in that time. We've seen, I don't think we remember quite how hardcore the divisions were between different denominations, back before World War II, but they were deep. And since that time, that we've been able to gain a greater division, a greater vision for what the church is, and the council is part of that. Council has 5 program units: faith and order, family concerns, government concerns, interfaith, and prison ministry. Interfaith has been that was primarily formed from Bishop Klesmeyer's efforts. He really encouraged the council in that. And we have one task force, dismantling racism. The things the council is mostly known for are our annual assembly in October. And we have covered topics, everything from Christian nationalism, dimension-friendly worship, Tikkun Olam, that was the Jewish concept of healing the world, and we had Rabbi Recki come in and do that. And of course, we do the Mary Virginia DeRue Award for ecumenical service. And both Carl Rutan and Christine Teague have been recipients of that. And we do our public policy booklet, and we've been at the forefront of launching of organizations and many issues. Disaster response, the council's role in that really began during the Buffalo Creek disaster. The council has organized clergy during the Upper Big Branch mine disaster. I can remember walking into the office on April 6th, the day after the explosion, and Dennis Sparks, the former director, said to me, we've got to get in the car and go down because they want us to organize the clergy. And, we got down there and just started, we took, the names of all the clergy we can, got their contact information, their denomination, and we came up with a pretty good list of who was down there. Unfortunately, the next day we hadn't put our name on it, 'cause of course we had organized it. So when we got to the guard gate the next day, they couldn't find our name on the list. So we had to um, um, sort of plead our case, but luckily someone came up and said, "Oh, I remember them from yesterday." It was actually pretty loose. I mean, um, Governor Manchin, bless his heart. He, he basically, there was one instance where someone drove up from North Carolina because they felt called to be there. And they just they went up to Governor Manchin and said, can I go in? And he said, sure. So next thing we knew, there was like someone, preaching to folks, and you can do a lot of damage during those situations. But I think, as Dennis rightfully pointed out, there were probably people who needed that. I mean, we had the variety of clergy who were participating in that. I'd probably pick whatever denomination you choose. But there were people who needed the shouting. There were people who needed the just quiet prayer. And there were people who just needed someone to hear their story. I mean, people would come up to us and say, I know where my relative worked in the mines, and I know that they're dead, because they knew that's where the explosion was and all that. So people were wrestling with that over 5 days. What would happen would be they'd call people together, and they would say, well, we only got so far into the mine, and we just couldn't do it. And that just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I can remember Jim Mitchell, who called us together and said, Governor Manchin has an announcement to make, and that, so we all gathered together, and he got made sure everyone was next to a family. And then basically, he just said, it was a brief announcement. We've located all the bodies, and there were no survivors. And, there are 300 people packed into a very small area. And the ripple that went through, people were fainting. The state police misunderstood what was happening at the front, and it just got chaotic. And but if you ever doubt the role of clergy or pastoral care, there's this one old man sitting in his car, and he had oxygen hooked up to him, and there was one guy who went out, and he felt like he couldn't do anything, so he came back. There was a second guy who went out, and he felt like he couldn't do anything. And then for whatever reason, I just tend to be the person of last resort. So they came up to me and said, could I talk to him? So I literally just held this guy's hand. I knelt down, and he just kept saying, they got it wrong, Lord, take me. And there were no words at that point, I think, and I think that's where the other two people had made a mistake. They tried to sort of console him. He didn't need consoling. He just needed someone literally just to hold his hand and sort of, make sure that, someone had heard him. And so I think, the role of the council in disaster is just incredibly important. The council was active in 2012 during the derecho and Hurricane Sandy. In fact, the derecho happened like on I had But walking my dog, I slipped and fell and had a really huge welt on my ankle, and then the next day the derecho hit, and then like 2 days after I became the executive director. And so, you just get pulled into the circumstances. But the council was able to play a role in that, able to play a role in Hurricane Sandy, the Charleston water crisis. During the 2016 flood, the council deployed between 80 and 90 clergy. And we were able to establish West Virginia VOAD as an independent organization. So let's see. So some of the other issues, let's see here. So some of the other issues that the council has been involved in is substance use disorder. We did. I am clergy, we'll just part these and break them. Two. Enough for one.
We can share too.
Oh, I've got. So we went out and, when the council first started,
Oh, no, you're good.
okay. When the council first started doing, hearing about substance use disorder, I've been hearing rumors from McDowell County, where I served, about young people dying in McDowell County from overdoses. I kept thinking to myself that couldn't possibly be true. I remember driving down McDowell County, and I started seeing all these little health clinics like everywhere in McDowell County, and I'm thinking to myself, good, finally people are getting health care down there, although that was not what was happening. And so I think, everyone was sort of in this state of confusion. I mean, what exactly was going on? And we just decided we were going to dig into it. The first thing we did was to put together just a basic brochure telling, what substance use disorder was, were things that you could do and things of that nature. That was the first step. The second step was actually to go out and listen to people. And so we did listening events all across the state of West Virginia, and that's those listening events are found in here in the conclusions. And let's see. Yeah, if you look in the back, you'll see the sort of statistics of where we were and what we did. And so we put together this resource. And then we felt like we needed to do something a little beyond that. And that's when we started doing naloxone training, started doing trainings across the state of West Virginia, and motivational interviewing, which is sort of the standard of care for substance use disorder. And if you know Sky Kirshner.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, Sky did those, and we did those basically in each of the behavioral health regions across the state. And the next thing we did was families motivating recovery, which is teaching, how families can deal with substance use disorder within their family. We did screening, brief intervention, referral, and treatment training. But the naloxone training, that was really basically Christine Tig. She did the training here. We showed the film. What was the name of that? I should have written it down. It's the problem when you retire. Oh, heroin.
Yeah, it was great.
It was, yeah. And had panel discussions. We did that all across the state. I think Elaine was very kind in letting us use that. So we are currently working with two filmmakers on a sort of a third set of training. There was a film called Inheritance, and it's about a family over in Portsmouth, Ohio, and how substance use disorder has just completely disrupted their lives. Sky Kirshner is doing a study guide for us, and so we're hoping to get a grant so that any congregation that wants to view the film and use the study guide, we'll pay the screening fee, and the screening guides will be free. So we're still active in substance use disorder. Some of the stories of people. Who is that? Who's that in the front there? Bishop Glassmeyer. We did another brochure, and it has, it's a little outdated now. I mean, you get a sort of a broader understanding of what substance use disorder is. There are just some very poignant stories. If you wonder where the church did well and where it didn't do well, Aaron Strope has a really good article in here, or memoir really, of the church's response to the family and sort of what worked well, what didn't work well.
He's very smart.
Yes.
She's grew up with my son. I know her from being in system.
Yeah. So she and Sky worked together,
Right.
and I really was Aaron that sort of organized everything as Sky came. But yeah, she was great. So let's see. So from the substance use disorder, when there was no money, the council was sort of in the forefront. When there was money, everyone, their neighbors started to do substance use disorder stuff. So we pulled back, and what we noticed was how this was impacting foster, adoptive, and kinship children. So we basically worked on 3 projects with that. One was to help establish the West Virginia Family Adoptive and Kinship Parent Network, and then we spun those folks off. We, working with the Benton Foundation, were able to start foster closets and help closing closets expand their offerings to foster kids, and we were able to help 31,955 children across the state. And now we still have a family or a faith scouting and foster care program. And I didn't realize that, but scouting is like really expensive, both for Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And through that program, working with the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts, we were able to help defray and pay for those expenses. We helped start a Girl Scout troop on the west side of Charleston, and a couple others across the state as well. The other thing I think that we've been really active in is reentry. Now, reentry, the council had a reentry program for folks leaving the criminal justice system back in 1980. I'm not sure what happened to that, but we just, again, it sort of emerged as a need, and we got money and got 3 small grants from various faith-based foundations. Started our first community reentry council here in Charleston, started another one in Huntington, And I think during the council's time with this program, we had established 25 reentry councils across the state. We've since spun that program off, and it would, so that program became the REACH initiative. And I think they have probably close to 30, 40, 50 reentry councils across the state. And that's basically a way to draw people together, organizations together to sort of address those needs. I mean, you have housing needs, food, clothing, there are, if you criminal record, there are literally about 1,000 consequences that happen to you down the road. And getting a state ID is a huge problem. If you don't have, a lot of folks are in the criminal justice system because of substance use disorder. And sometimes people just burn bridges with their family, they burn bridges with their friends. There's just no one out there for them. And, where's your support system at that point? And, if you can't get a job, where do you go? You might wind up working in fast food, which, re-exposes you to a lot of substance use disorder again. There was a instance where elderly person didn't have any place to go, so they just, when your time is up, they just literally kick you out. And that's not really true. There are some transitional stuff like that, but they drove this guy to the county courthouse and just left him. And and then Bev got a call, hey, we've got this person, do something. Even though they're like a couple hours away from you. So these reentry the reentry program, I think, was just significant in humanizing this issue and providing resources. Talked a little bit about the annual assembly. One of the things that we focused on was countering Christian nationalism. And the council was lucky enough to get a grant. And this is where I think, we're small. The council of churches, for most of my tenure there, only had like one person on staff. But we really are able to do things that I think other people could have done them, but we did. And so we got a grant. We did. This is actually a nationwide program that came out of the West Virginia Council of Churches. Yeah. Very. So you can see the grant recipients there. We were able to award 14 mini grants to councils of churches across the state, across the nation. You can read about the projects that they've done. It's lots of problems with Christian nationalism. One is that, because they get so much press, they sort of become the standard of Christianity. That's what people think about when they think about Christians. Right. And I think the other thing is, there's a theologian by the name of Thomas Halleck, and he talks about fundamentalism essentially being idolatrous because you place doctrine above love. And anytime you do that, you don't have Christianity anymore. You have an idolatrous system. So he is pretty upfront about, not so much. He's Czech. He has a different context, but I think it's helpful. It was a helpful paradigm to reflect on. But yeah, I said this was a really good and wonderful project.
Could I ask you a question? Did
Absolutely.
you ever guys ever consider calling it something other than Christian nationalism? Because you kind of cede the territory to them in the first word.
Yeah, that's true.
I think,
Christian unity?
No, just take Christianity.
yeah,
I like idolaters, so.
Christian idolatry?
Or
Very good.
everything Christian, I said,
Yeah.
it's gotta be something that denies the Christian adjective. Right?
Nationalism, idolatry.
Imposters before Christ, or.
Yeah. Take Bible
I'm
usurpers.
sorry about that. You've had a lot of experience with it, so I was just thinking if that was ever considered.
well, I think, so two thoughts. One is, there actually is a lot of discussion as to what to call this movement. I mean, they would, because it's not a sort of a single movement, and you've got the Dominionists, and a couple other sort of, the Seven Mountain folks and, so I think you are correct that Christian nationalism is not an umbrella term that everyone would use, nor would it capture the movement. I think it, people sort of default, it's like, Kleenex.
Yeah.
Just, even though it's like tissue, yeah, that's tissue.
Yeah.
And so people keep defaulting to it. And I don't know, at one point it sort of becomes standardized, but it's a complex movement. I think the other part of that is, folks who are involved in this still are our brothers and sisters. And I think we can't lose the human element in this. We, if our calling is to love God and others as, God has loved us, we still have to show love and kindness. Because, there are a few people at the top, but there are many, many people on the bottom. And I think, the question is, how do we, just as we listen to people who are involved in substance use disorder, how do we listen and hear the pain of those who are caught within this movement? One of the things that Sky's incredible training on motivational interviewing is that you want to ask questions and listen, and basically what you're trying to do is create sort of ambiguity so that the person begins to question as whether their thought system at that point is helping or hurting them. And I think, this is, this is basically, most of the things in here are just about getting information out about what this movement is. I think the next step would really be to start listening to folks. None of, I would say, the present administration's moves could even remotely be called Christian. The estimate with USAID, with USAID being defunded is that, this is, maybe a month or so ago, 600,000 people have died. This has substantial consequence. It's not neutral, and it's not hypothetical. People are dying, because of this, at least in the administrations now. But you still have people who call themselves Christian supporting those actions. And I think, we've got to listen, and we've got to find ways to dialogue, to bring some human element into it somehow. But yeah, it's a that's a hard thing.
I understand that we have to love them wherever
Mhm.
they are, but I think if somebody is saying that if you're a refugee
Yeah.
we should
Yes.
persecute you
Yes.
if you're a woman seeking an abortion. We should abuse you.
Yeah.
If you're a poor person or an addicted person. We
Yes.
should ostracize you. We not only need to love, we need to resist that
Yes.
peacefully. But I think rebranding these people would be a really great way to do it. I mean, just use the tools that are in front of us and call them
Yeah.
what they really are.
Yeah.
Bigoted, xenophobic. Anyway, so there you go. I'm done.
One of
I'll
the,
be your communications person.
one of the things that I struggle with
Mhm.
is that loving everybody as your neighbor and
Yeah.
someone that falls under the category of a Christian
Mhm.
nationalist. I have a tendency to just shut down
Yeah.
and not give them an opportunity to share their story
Mm-hmm.
as I would Antonio or Ann
Yeah.
or anybody else, right? So I appreciate your comment that one of the things that we need, or at least what I heard you
Mhm.
say, one of the things that we need to become better at doing is to listen to others that we don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
agree with now. And I do that some, but when it comes to someone that throws their Bible at me,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't always, because don't think the same way, right? And it's
Mhm.
very hard for me to stop and listen
Mm-hmm.
when you understand what I'm trying to say.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard not to have that visceral reaction.
Yeah,
It's hard
it's
not,
very hard for me.
it's hard not to make jokes. It's hard,
Yeah.
it's hard not to slide into dehumanizing.
I
your
have to
opponent.
leave in a minute to go vest, but I wanted to say, I grew up in Logan County.
Yeah.
And what I have noticed from the people I grew up with and their parents is that back when coal company really was king, and they owned the houses, they owned the stores, they owned the schools, everything, or they built the schools and gave them to the county. It was, the proper thing to do was to do what the boss told you,
Yeah.
to respect authority.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, they're still thinking that way.
Yeah.
That, well, these liberals, they came in and they tore down the structure of authority, and look what we are now. There's no coal, there's no job, there's nobody mowing the grass like the company used to do.
Mhm.
And that is a lot of the attitude.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
those liberals, they came and they tore down the structure that was keeping this community thriving. And it's kind of hard to deal with that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it makes it hard, to organize. I can't remember who said it, but someone said that, coal is our past, but it's not our future.
Exactly.
But it's hard, but I think you're exactly right. When I was in McDowell County, well, the coal companies ran the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
North Fork United Methodist Church was, the property. I hope they don't close because the property reversed to the coal company. And yeah, I mean, I think it's, we were fine. They wanted to put the largest landfill in the United States in McDowell County. And, the county officials who were supporting it, they said, well, we've got trash everywhere, here in the county. We'll just hire our own police to, clean all that up. And it'll just be like when we have the mine guards. Now, I was horrified when they said that, but they thought that was a good thing because yes, the system worked for some folks.
Yeah, it's like recreating the feudal system.
Yeah.
That's what they recreated, the feudal
Yes.
system.
And
Take people from a feudal system back into a democracy. That's a big jump.
And what we're seeing is a third recolonization of Appalachia with the data centers as well.
Yeah.
So, Halleck, there's a book called The Afternoon of Christianity, and Thomas Halleck was, and it was a priest and theologian, it was, during the, occupation and domination by Russia. So he has broad experience, but he talks about that there's a difference between being Christian and being Christ-like.
Yes.
because anyone can attach Christian to their name. But to be Christ-like is different. You know, and so I think the question for us, it might be, it's not how do we be Christian, but how do we be Christ-like? And that's where Bible study, probably Advent resources, you know, all sort of tie in together. How much time do I have?
Let's see here, you have about 7 minutes.
7 minutes, okay, good deal. So, one other program with their Dismantling Racism Task Force. Every year, so there were, you think, you know, that was a, so I was a Golden Horseshoe winner. Two things. One is I never heard about the mine wars. I had to literally leave the state before I heard about the mine wars. And you know, because West Virginia was, you know, split during the Civil War, we didn't have any racism or anything.
Of course.
It's like,
What are these for?
those are the names of people who have been lynched in West Virginia.
Oh my God, these people have been lynched.
Every year we have a service of remembrance, and we read each of these names. Remind us that
This is all after.
these people never saw justice. Their name, some of their names, we don't even know who they are. And you know, we need to face our past, and we need to, you know, I love West Virginia. I was born here, raised here, went to college here, but we can't romanticize who we are. We have problems, we have issues. There's racism here, there was slavery here. And we need just to take a moment to remember that and maybe do something.
We have to remember is, you know, there's almost an eternal struggle that has to go on.
Mhm.
I mean, when we are looking at Hope Scholarship, that's basically return to segregated religion schools that we had in the 1970s.
Yeah.
That were denied not-for-profit status. And now they're being funded with state funds. So, you know, you don't win anything against a relentless opponent. You just bring the kind of line of detente to an acceptable position. And I think, you know, that's, as you're saying, we should do something. We really should do something.
Yes. So two last points. One is, I think the foundation of the West Virginia Council of Churches is, you know, building relationships that witness to the love of God and Jesus Christ. And we've seen that between the different denominational leaders within the council who form friendships. You know, our two bishops ago, Bishop Sandra Steinerball, you know, was the first woman bishop for the United Methodist Church in West Virginia, and Bishop Bransfield, who was Catholic bishop, invited, you know, some of the judicatory leaders to meet together. And I'm wondering how this is going to go. But despite it, I mean, we're obvious, you know, Bishop Bransfield obviously has some issues. But I saw him, you know, pull Bishop Steinerball aside, and they were actually talking about what it meant to be bishop and how, you know, mistakes he had made and, you know, stuff like that. So you get that sort of camaraderie. our program units are truly ecumenical endeavors. And I think the council is very countercultural to the division that's going on. The council is a model of community where people with vastly different theologies and ministerial practices come together. And let's see, I can do this. We had a sanctity of life discussion at our board retreat. And that was, I was worried. I had one of the heads of the denominations call me and say, if you gotta cancel this, it's just gonna tear us apart. And we went ahead with it. We had different presentations from various denominations. And, some thought, well, we should come out with a common statement. Well, it was pretty obvious by the end of the presentations that was not happening. But, we listened. We listened and we learned a lot about how denominations decide on what public policies they're gonna do. And it turned out to be just, something that brought the council closer instead of dividing us. And I think the other relationship is between church and community. There are people who want to believe in the church universal, but have been turned off, but who still respect and interact with the council. And I think that is also a part of witnessing. And got a few other things, but are there questions or, oh, wait, no, there's one more because, just cannot have too many handouts. This is a copy of our public issue priorities. We issue this every year and then we hand it out to everyone. For whatever reason, I don't have copies, but if you do the camera thing, you can find them on the website.
Okay.
So there they go. Okay, now are there other questions?
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for coming this morning, and I personally have learned a lot and did not realize or had forgotten how involved the churches was in various activities and things. So and I'd like to, if you'd like to stay for our service,
Absolutely.
we would be glad to have you on this Christ the King Sunday. I'd just like to say that next week starts Gina's review of the new Advent book. Go ahead and take it, and it's $12. And if you're not able to swing the $12, let the church know. And she's, I believe, said read up the first Sunday or something of that nature. Also, next Sunday, I believe it is that those of you that made or have Anglican prayer beads or rosaries, they're going to be blessed during the service. And then the second Sunday of Advent, we plan, and more information will come out about this. But the second Sunday of Advent, which will be December 7th, we'll meet about 9:00 in the chapel and for about 15 minutes and pray our prayer beads for those of you that want to join us. Okay?
Good.
I think, did I include everything, Laura?
Yeah.
Done.
I just learned of this. Tomorrow evening at 7 at the synagogue, corner of Virginia and Elizabeth. There is a discussion. It's an interfaith panel, Judaism and its reflections in Christian and Muslim religious life. The new rabbi of the synagogue is leading. You probably know this already. Oh no, they should have told you. The imam from the Islamic Center is on the panel, and Molly Lineman Belcher,
Linehan, yes.
Linehan
Yes,
Belcher,
yes.
theology teacher at Charleston Catholic, is going to be on the discussion. So
What time is that?
It's moderated by Mark Atkinson. It's free, tomorrow at 7.
At the synagogue.
Synagogue, 1599 Virginia Street East.
Thank you.
Could be pretty interesting. I'm gonna go. 7 o'clock synagogue.
All right, well, thank you for everyone being
That was
here.
great. Thank
I'm
you.
surprised.
You know, it definitely, it's very hopeful to know that this exists and the work you all are doing.
I attended the memorial service.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, where these names were read? Wow.
A lot of what the Council of Churches trying to help Christians live up to their name.
There you go. That would get a lot of people to join.
It's, well, it's, it's like the letter,